I think it's time we talk about this. Hi guys, I'm Dylan and I make college application videos. Today I'm going to be giving you guys the latest info on applying to college during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm going to summarize some information from the latest official statements that have been sent out by deans of many colleges, and I'm also going to give you guys some application tips to help you stand out during this time. Alright, let's get into it. So, now more than ever, it's important to emphasize who you are as a person and your true values rather than just all the things that you did. Because this college application season, schools are paying less attention to your test scores, and they're also understanding of your extracurriculars and the fact that you might not have access to opportunities or they got canceled. So now it's super important to really get across the who you are as a person. What makes you you? What are your values? There's a quote that I found in an article that I linked below, but I really enjoy what they said here. So think about this. When stripped of all the busyness of high school life, they will be asking the question, who are you? Also, college-specific supplemental essays and those kind of questions will be even more important this year, especially the Why Us essays. I actually have a video on the Why Us essay and I'll share it with you guys right here, so make sure to check that out. This will give you an opportunity to really express your interest in going to that school and share with them the things that make you a good fit for them. In addition to knowing about your personal qualities, they're also curious about what you did during this time. While you've been in quarantine, what passions have you fulfilled? Have you been helping out with your family? Did you learn something new? Did you find a creative outlet? Were you helping out in the community in some way? College admissions officers this year are especially going to be looking at that stuff. So really ask yourself, what has this challenge of living through COVID allowed you to do? Also, even if you can't visit schools right now, a lot of schools are doing virtual tours or webinars and things like that, so make sure you check out the college's websites that you're applying to, and there's probably going to be a lot of information there where you can learn more about the school and the culture and the vibe and just everything about it. Okay, now that I touched on some of the more vague stuff, I'm going to jump into the concrete facts. What I'm about to share with you guys is information from the Dean's Collective that they posted in June 2020, and it's a group of 300 plus schools who came together and put together this resource information sheet, which I'm also going to link down below, but I'm going to summarize for you guys right now. In this document, they listed 6 different things that they value in this order. Number 1, self-care. Above all else, they want to make sure that you're practicing self-care and that you really take care of yourself during this time because your health is what matters the most. Number 2, academic work. So colleges are mainly going to assess your academic achievement from before and after the pandemic, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop trying in school. I get how during this time you might lose a lot of motivation, or you might just be busy taking care of other more important things, which is totally valid, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But it's still important to put your best foot forward when taking your online classes, even if they're pass or fail. Consider this, your teacher writing your letter of recommendation. Will they say in your letter of rec that once the pandemic hit, you completely stopped trying in your schoolwork? That's not exactly something you want your teacher to say. Effort and perseverance will continue to be rewarded. Also, in terms of academics and the resources that you have available to you, colleges understand that not everyone has the same access to different resources. And so they're not going to compare one student who has a ton of opportunities to another student who has not that much access, because that's just not fair. So instead, they said that they will view you in the context of what is available to you. Also, I want to share this direct quote from the document. No student will be disadvantaged because of a change in commitments or a change in plans because of this outbreak. Their school's decision about transcripts, the absence of AP or IB tests, their lack of access to standardized tests, or their inability to visit campus. Hear that, folks? You won't be put at a disadvantage for these things. The main thing to learn from this is that colleges understand. In terms of testing, you should really pay attention to what each college's policy is, because there's 4 different options for testing, and I'm going to explain those right now. There's temporarily test optional, where they don't require it if you're applying for the 2021 school year, but they don't plan on extending this after that year. There's piloting test optional, where schools are trying out this test optional thing for maybe 2 or 3 years and then see whether it's needed anymore and just reevaluate further on. Then there's just straight up test optional, which tests are optional if you want to submit your scores or not, and they don't ever plan on making tests required again. And then there's test flexible, where you can submit your ACT or SAT or subject tests or IB tests or any combination of those, but you don't have to. I highly recommend you put these kind of policies for every single school into your organization sheet, which I teach you how to make in this video. Personally, it's a necessity for going about college applications. Okay, the third thing that is listed on this Dean's Collective document is service and contribution to others. Like I said in the beginning, and this is them actually stating it, they are looking for students who are making a difference during this time. There are so many needs in the world right now, and they want to see how you are contributing to that. How are you helping out? Some of the things that they actually listed on there include tutoring, contact tracing, support for senior citizens, assisted food delivery, working to register voters, combat racial injustice, protect the environment, and stop online harassment among peers. However, if you are involving yourself in this kind of public service, they want to make sure that it's meaningful to you and really authentic. They said they don't want this to be a public service competition. It's not about that. It's what you do that comes from the heart. And it's the little things that matter too, little ways that you're helping out. It doesn't have to be some big, crazy, massive project. They even say, and I quote, "Our interest is not whether students created a new project or demonstrated leadership during this period, but they are interested in little ways that you're helping out in the community or within your family even." And if you can't provide any of these contributions or you can't participate in this public service, then you will not be disadvantaged either. That brings me to point number 4, family contributions. College admissions officers encourage you to list your family contributions on your activities section of your application. They say it will only positively impact your application. This can look like supervising your younger siblings, or taking care of sick family members, or working to provide for your family. Leadership comes in many forms. There is a misconception that high-profile forms of service count towards college applications while family contributions don't, and that's completely untrue. So if contributing to your family is something that you've really had to do during this pandemic and during quarantine, then definitely put it on your activity section. Next up, for number 5, we have extracurricular and summer activities. These college admissions officers said you will not be disadvantaged for not participating in extracurriculars during this time. They understand that tons of opportunities for the summer have been canceled, and they understand that you might be spending more time, like we said, on your family contributions. Each student has different circumstances, and they are taking that into account. So, if you feel like you're lacking on your activity section, you can get creative for what you consider an extracurricular. A director of admissions from Tulane University said that, for example, you could list all the books that you read during social distancing. They said, and I quote, "We will love seeing anything you did during this wacky time." And now for number 6, the last thing that they listed that they're really valuing during this college application season. And that is reporting information that is important to students and to us. By us, they mean the college admissions officers. It's really helpful for them to know your specific circumstances that have affected your academic performance. And this year, the Common Application and the Coalition Application will have a word box where you can write up to 250 words describing how you've been impacted by the pandemic. Here is an opportunity for you to share your family responsibilities and share maybe financial impacts it's had. If you have a lack of access to internet or no quiet place to study, this is your opportunity to share that information, and they highly encourage you to do so. Also, this information will be confidential. That brings me to a little side point. Because they give you this opportunity in your application to talk about how you've been impacted by the pandemic, it might not be a great idea to center your actual Common Application essay around the pandemic. So yeah, I actually wouldn't recommend doing that. Like, I wouldn't recommend focusing everything on COVID in your essay, because just think about it. Everyone is thinking about the pandemic right now. We are all living through it. It is on everyone's minds. So I feel like everyone's gonna have the urge to talk about it in their essays. And yes, while you can talk about it, I wouldn't make it the actual central focus of your essay, because this is only a little section of your life. You had so many years before you where you participated in activities, where you had experiences that really impacted you, that you had passions and you were following them and all this stuff. So unless you have a super impactful and meaningful story that came from the pandemic, I wouldn't make that the central focus of your Common Application essay. because you have that other opportunity in the Common App to talk about those things. Okay, the last thing that I'm going to be talking about is financial aid. FAFSA uses the prior year's tax forms. So if you are graduating high school in 2021, then they're going to be looking at your parents' tax forms from 2019. But if your family's financial standing has been heavily impacted by the pandemic, I recommend you contact the head of financial aid or the head of enrollment at the colleges that you are looking at. So that way you can talk about your specific circumstances with them and find out their specific information. And once again, this is another thing that you can list on the Common Application box that asks how you've been impacted by the pandemic. So the main thing to take away from this is that colleges are being a lot more understanding this year and really evaluating you based on the context that you're in and the circumstances that you are going through. All right, that is all the information that I have for you guys today. I hope it really cleared things up. Like I said, everything is linked down below, and I have a ton of college application resources for you guys to use for free because I have a ton of just different videos on like everything from getting organized to writing your essays. So check them out all in the description. Make sure to subscribe and turn on your post notifications because I'm constantly making new college application videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see ya in the next video.